Hey guys, and welcome back to part number 12 of our Australian Sling TSi build assist with the guys from Global Aviation Products up in Queensland on the Gold Coast. Normally you'd follow me around on a daily basis and I'd show you exactly what happens on a typical day of the build assist, but today was a little bit different. I got a chance to sit down and have a good conversation with Errol around the wiring and the wiring harnesses, everything that goes on behind the panel and also the stuff that goes on in the fuselage as well. I thought it was really invaluable for people to understand how this process works. You get some really good tidbits of information as well as for prospective builders. I think it's just great content. And basically what I wanted to do was today was just to show you that one, and then obviously the whole day's highlights, I'll do that on the future content. I've also got some Q&As with people that have reached out on the page, so certainly starting to get a few of those on as well, and I'll cover them at the end. So stick around if you want to check any of that out.
So basically what I have been doing now is the HIC connectors. And the way I do it, I just go HIC 1 to 6, and that's A. That is HIC A and HIC B. And then I go A1, A2, A3, A4, A5, A6. Yep. And then same with there. And then I'll do the B side of it as well. So I just make myself little stickers so that when I get to the HIC connector, it's going to be this. Lots of little wires, and I don't have to think about, okay, so what going where? 1 going 1, 2 going 2, 3 going, so it's very simple. So then I can make up my connectors. And then these ones will be all of those. So you'll see that it's a 3-core wire. It's got 3 wires. And that one there is also 3-core. So because all of these things are CAN bus, it's got a 2-core wire, which is typically this. Can you see there's 2 cores in there? Just 2.
Oh yeah,
and then you've got what we call a screen around it. So it's a 2-core screened cable. So we will just then, the screen is then, if you look at this, it's got a ground. That will be the screen. Below will always be you'll see there's a white and a blue wire in there. Will always be the blue, and high will always be white.
Okay.
So there's one thing that you remember about CAN bus is the white wire will always be high and the blue will always be low. CAN bus is very, very peculiar because it's almost like a little, imagine a railway line with different stations, okay? So imagine each one of these is a station.
Yep.
There's a railway line. So you've got 2 little lines running on the rock, and then each one of these stations just hook onto it.
Yep.
Like that. So it's like just a little parallel line. But if you, for some other reason, where it connects, swap the white and the blue around.
Yep.
So where you connect them, the white must always be on white and the blue must always be on blue. Because if you swap them around, it stuffs up that whole canvas.
Yep.
It will work.
And what do you mean by stuff up?
Because the communications is now, because there's traffic going one way, and all of a sudden there's just one guy that wants to go the other way.
Yeah.
You can imagine the chaos. But now the problem is, you can't pinpoint the fault. Now you have to open up every one of these connectors to see where you've made the mistake. Yeah. So I've had it that we fit the whole thing into the aircraft, switch it on, and all of a sudden, this thing doesn't want to work. You can't see it. And then the next time you switch it on, it's talking, but then now this thing doesn't want to work.
Oh my God.
So it's almost like you think you've got an intermittent issue. It's a CAN bus issue, period. And also, very important on CAN bus, a CAN bus has a beginning and it's got an end.
Yep.
So that's 3, wherever it starts. If it starts here, it must have what we call a terminator on it to tell it this is the beginning, and where it ends in the tail, must have a terminator in, and a terminator is a simple thing that looks like this.
Yep.
So on the piece of equipment, instead of just putting the connector in, see that? Garmin CAN terminator, that little thing will be at the end of the string and at the beginning of the string. So that's CAN bus. And it's simple. It can communicate to the unit and back. So communication runs both ways. Whereas when you have something like RS-232, You've heard of RS-232 communications. RS-232 has got a transmit line and it's got a receive line. It can't do it on the same line.
Yep.
So in cars nowadays, everything is CAN bus because it's simple.
One line.
Tell you what,
It's like a highway. It goes up and down.
everything from whatever goes, every sensor in the car, reverse sensors, whether it's a proximity sensor, whether to check whether something is in gear, whether a brake is made or not.
Yep.
And 500 things on the same little line.
But if you stuff it up on install, it's
That's
way
it.
worse to fix.
Imagine the nightmare to try. I mean, here we've got,
Okay.
say, like 20 connectors. On a car, we've got 500.
So, sling installations are typically all using CAN bus. Is that the mandate? Yeah.
So all of us is CAN bus.
Yep.
And Garmin runs on CAN bus.
Gotcha.
Which is fantastic. I mean, it's such a simple, it's automotive technology, but
Gotcha.
it's really nice to use. So, now that I've got all of that in here, so I want to finish off the heat connector. Okay, so this is all this. The only thing that extra still needs to do is this. Do you see these two lines here? This two there. That runs there.
Yep.
Those are literally the ones that will tell my relays to start or not. So you'll see here, it runs there and it goes up into relay 3 and one that comes back there. So when you turn your starter key, you'll see here, when you put start key on, you've got positive running all the way there. If you look at the 3 relays. So in order to make a relay to work, you've got a positive and a negative on the relay. When you apply power to it, it closes the contacts on the relays, okay? So you've got a ground, and on this side, you've got a positive. So when you apply from the starter a positive, all 3 of those relays goes.
Yep.
And when they start up, it literally closes the circuit to the rest of this thing. So things like, and this is very important to remember, when you do your pre-flight checks to see especially if your 2 fuel pumps are running. So this, you see fuel pump 1, fuel pump 2.
Yep.
You can switch those switches on.
Yep.
The pump is not running. Because this is controlled by the ECU, that black box. And that black box will not do anything until you turn that start key. So the moment you turn the starter, the black box says, start, fuel. But if the switches for the fuel are off, and you turn the starter, nothing's going to happen. The pumps won't run. So when they are switched on, it will still not run until you turn the starter. But now the dilemma is, how do you check if those pumps are actually working? Because you don't know. So yes, once they run, you can say, okay, well, let me switch one off. Oh, the engine is still running, so the other one must be good. And then you do the same. So you check both your pumps while the engine is running. But you can also check your pumps on the ground before the engine is running without starting it. And the only way you can do that is by switching on what I call the oh shit switch. Because what do you do when you do that? When you switch that on,
that's straight to battery.
You switch battery straight to
Gotcha.
fuel pumps.
Okay.
So you can sit in the aircraft. I want if the fuel pumps is running before you even start off. Okay, put on the fuel pumps. Switch on the ECU. Now you can hear it.
That makes perfect
And you
sense.
can switch them off individually.
Yep.
Okay, my fuel pumps are running. So there's a good way to check it, but it's also good that you understand the logic between the relays,
100%.
the starter, and the 2 fuel pumps.
100%.
Okay, so
That was very good.
it's a simple little thing. It's not a lot in it, but it's good to know that pumps will not run unless the ECU is on or unless you turn the starter. So when the engine runs, pumps will run. Engine not running, pumps won't run unless you switch the ocean switch on, the backup switch. Okay. That's why we put that switch.
That's very good, Errol.
That's why that's why that switch, we like to put that switch between 2 guards. Because if you don't guard them, you can accidentally switch it on. Well, it won't do anything. But that is a very important switch. Same as your fuel switches, they sit between two guards. The same as your lane switches, they sit between two guards so that they guard it against accidental bump on or bump off.
Yep.
Okay, so that's just a little bit of education.
I like it.
So the rest of this is then, I'm going to just pull. So all of this, we now need to chop them down a bit so that we can do this connector. Okay? And again, what I like to do is I like to work from a point to the main loom.
Yep.
Because then this is all done. Now we can start making that nice all that way.
Yep.
And the same from here and then, so you sort of start here and you start working and you move everything back there until the whole thing is nice and neat. Stop it. Shit.
Not at all, mate. I think this is the stuff. From my perspective, this is the stuff that I'm paying for from a build assist. I reckon.
This is what you need.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
I mean, I can bore you to death by, full 5,000 rivets. And you're not learning a thing. Not a thing.
Yeah.
But I really want you to understand why we do things, where your wires are running. Because
well, just even that, you know what I mean? Like, it's just to know that.
And it's not hard. But it's not over the top hard.
Yeah.
But it's bloody good to understand. Right, just look at that. So the next thing we do is you need these two little wires, or not two little, those two wires that goes through that relay there. So we're going to have a place where we run those relays out. So I can run them out anywhere I want.
Yep.
I probably will just run them also there. So just so you know, you see these two here. Let's call it the maintenance D. Maintenance.
Yeah, so I saw that. That's
So
what
when you do, every time you do 100-hour service, okay?
Yep.
Literally every time you will do 100-hour service, you need to do what we call a fault download. So for you to access what's going on in your engine, you have to access it via computer.
Yep.
So you get what we call a dongle, and that will connect in there. So this two will be sitting behind your dash.
Yep.
You'll take your computer and the dongle, you'll plug it into that, and then you can see what's going on the engine.
Yep.
It's like what the car guys do with their cars.
Yep.
So they've got, instead of having that, you remember under dash, there's a place you can plug it in, and it tells you, that and that and that. So when you get that engine light coming on, that's your diagnostic port for the engine light. And that also goes into this connector.
And that's something that obviously we purchase through you?
No, you can buy it directly from Rotax.
From Rotax, okay.
Seriously, the good thing about the display for Garmin, because Garmin also talk to the engine, you've got on your Garmin, you go into the menu, into the service menu, while you fly. Say you've got a red light flickering at you. Oh shit, what the hell is that? Tap on the menu, you press the menu button twice, pops a whole menu little thing. You go in there, you click on the engine, you go onto diagnostic, and it tells you, you've got an EGP sensor that's dying.
Nice.
So you don't really have to buy that dongle. So you can every, say, 6 services or so, you come up here, we've got the dongle, $2,000. So we've got the dongle. So we just put the dongle on there, we download all the stuff because you've got a buffer memory.
Yeah.
So every time that you do your lane checks, you induce a fault. And every time you do that, the fault will go and sit in the buffer. Now in flying schools where that thing is done 8 times a day, in half a year, there's 1,000 of these faults in your memory, and it blocks your memory, and then the thing starts to give you all funny kind of dramas.
Yeah.
Privately, you will probably never fall the buffer, but in the flying school we do. So that's why you have to drain it, so to speak, clean it up. So that's sort of why you will ultimately need that. Okay.
Yeah.
So now, the only wires I still want to pull in here, when we can start finishing this connector, is that 2 wires to the relay. So just grab me at the top there, the second wire. Yeah. So this is about a 16 or 18 gauge.
Yep.
You don't need a lot of, you don't need a really thick wire for this. That's the one thing we do. And then I'm just going to mark them. So this is H4 and H12. Well, I don't know if I wrote it down. HB. Oh, come here. HB4 and HB12. And they go to relay number 1. So I'm just going to quickly print a label for relay 1. So what I do is I just pair the two. So HB4 and HB12 goes to relay 1 and relay 1. And just the other way again.
Same one?
Yep. So it's going to come from here. And let's say it sort of goes to about there. Okay? Going to make 2 of them. Relay 1. And it doesn't really matter. Just want to there and there. Just bend them around so that the thing can't slip off of it. I don't know what those wires are for. Pop them in there. Oh yeah. Okay. And then this one. There. And I'll just use this is dry. So now I just want to keep these things from sliding all the way off when I work with them. So we'll just heat shrink them, and then I'll show you how we clean them out and start preparing them so we can put. Oh. So it's just time consuming, these little things, but it's just that they don't keep falling off.
Yeah. Hot enough to singe the hairs off you?
Yeah, you can. I mean, so obviously, we just need to be sort of careful to not burn your fingers and not to burn the wire, of course. So the wiring can be very blood holding as well.
Do you ever get any builders come in and do like an intensive month with you, or has that ever happened?
No. I think a lot of them has got this sort of. I think this works well for the likes of business people that's got just so much on. You cannot afford to come and sit here for. Literally, you can't afford to come and sit here for a month or 2 months. So this works well because you do get the exposure. So so now comes so every connector that you do is now you obviously also do some the prep on it is the other thing. And I use.
So how much work's been in to get to this stage?
This is
how much work would
I would say easy 150 hours. 150 to 200 hours to build the harness, that.
Shit.
Yeah, it's a lot of hours. This is.
And that's for you.
Yeah.
So for an average builder, it's probably twice again, right?
Yeah. I would say if I do my utmost very best, I can probably do this and that, complete finish off panel, everything to the point where it's about ready to go in. That's about, I would say, 160 hours at least. And then I would spend another 30 to 40 hours in the cockpit, setting it up, checking everything, routing the wires. So, it's a lot of it's a lot of time. So what we want to do is with this wire, I want to get the sleeving off. Okay? So, let's pull it. So now when I push this little screen back, you can see now.
That's the blues and whites.
So now you get your blues and your whites, you see. So outside, that's your screen. That's your blues and your whites in there. That's your call. So generally, we'll call this a 2-core screened Teflon cable, or Tefsil cable. So this aviation grade wire. So I snip that off, that little bit. Then I fold it back like that. Over the Tefsil, give it a twist like that. that becomes your screen. Okay, so that's now your screen, but you need to put a wire on there. So we use these little pigtails, which sort of goes over there, like that, goes over there, and it's got a little solder sleeve in there.
Yep.
So as you heat it up, you can use a heat gun. You get beautiful infrared heat guns, that's about $10,000. Or you can do this, and you can just, if you know what you do, you're not going to burn it, and you can see how it turns from like a red, it turns to a, you see, and there it's just flown.
There you go.
Perfect. Boom. So there's your third wire. It's now sealed, and it's soldered. So each one of these, now you can imagine. Look at this. They all must be done like that. And then your CAN bus, each one of these, see these CAN wires? There's one CAN and there's another CAN here. CAN. So now you do two of them, and then the two looks like this. Then you must actually now, remember I said they link on each other, like on a railway line?
Yep.
You get another CAN line that now the other CAN is gonna, you clean a little bit, and then you wrap the one around the blue around the white around the white, and then just one of them goes into the connector. So there's a hell of a lot of preparation before you can actually, what we now do with every one of these. Because if you look at that, it says the GEA CAN, okay? So this is this little bit here. You see GEA, and it's CAN bus.
Yep.
So that's the GEA CAN. So this little thing that sits here. But because I've got two of them, you'll see there's two of them that goes on one.
Yep.
I'm now gonna, so those two become one.
Yep.
So this two will become one.
Gotcha.
All right, so I have to do this one as well. So yeah. Now you're talking about things that can become extremely boring. This can, but if you don't concentrate and you get it bloody wrong, my
The time it's going to cost you.
You can spend literally. One day I spent a week chasing after one fault, and what was it? It wasn't one of these. When we pushed that little connector into the autopilot servo, it was a very shitty place to push it in. One of the pins got caught, and the pin went, and it didn't go into the CAN bus. And it was the one where everything starts. So you pull all the wiring apart, it's perfect. You check everything is perfect, but it's not working. And eventually, I'll put a little mirror up there, because you can't even see in there. I'll put a mirror up there, and sure as hell, the one pin bent. One link. It was. Since I was at the point where I was going to set fire to the aircraft. Drove me nuts. So, yeah. So, put the other one on as well. So while I'm going to prepare this, I'm going to give you another job. Close off. Yeah, and if you don't know how to do it, it's so easy to burn these things. You see how it just goes, it goes like all flowy. And then it just starts running. That's it. Okay. So now, these two must be spliced. If I talk in aviation terms about a splice, it means literally opening up that. You just take this sleeving off. Like that. So now you do take that out of the way. Cut off those two. That one. And now blue on blue. And white on white. Oh. Okay, so grab some solder. You got some solder there? Okay, and you can do this with splices as well. Literally, you can do this with a little crimp slice, with a little solder splice, and we just solder it like that. And now all you're going to do is you're going to put some heat shrink over there so that it doesn't short out. Right, and again, just okay, that's it. So that now is your sort of, you can do the same on this one here. And
expect to receive a letter in coming weeks from your energy retailer. Typical Gold Coast household will be paying 7.5%. On Tweed, it will be 13.5% more.
so that's the one. And when all of these now needs to be done, and when all of these, we will pull the little strings off and start the crimping process.
Okay.
So I'm not going to bore you to tears with this, but where is your Indian crate? I'm looking for a little box with the okay, so that is yours. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do now is this portion. So we are sort of done with this portion. Okay. So we are done with that portion, and we're done with a maintenance portion. So that, and this is done. So now we go to what we call the high power section. So all of this is the big connector that we get from you know, the big ones that goes through your bulkhead.
Oh, yep. Rotax one.
That's the firewall, yeah. So this is actually your own loom, but you're going to have one on the inside, one on the outside. That's firewall there.
Yep.
Okay. One inside, one outside.
Yep.
And then you're also going to have another one that is Rotax supplied. That's a free connector.
Yep.
Okay. And the rest of it is just literally going to go onto the side of a regulator, and the regulator B board just has some connectors, just normal ring terminals. ECU, that's all internal connectors, so you don't worry about that. So we are going to make up the following. We're going to make up that connector. We're going to make up that connector. We are going to make up all the wires that goes to the regulator A board. We're going to make up the wire that goes from the master switch to the main bus, to the ECU main circuit breaker, fuse box circuit breaker, and to the ECU override switch, and to the relays.
Yep.
Okay. So we are going to do this portion now. Okay.
Perfect.
And I think they specify here, they'll say CAWG means wire gauge 8, which is quite a thick wire. But the rest of it is all what we call a 12 gauge. So all of these other ones are 12 gauge. Okay.
Yep.
So the lower the gauge, the higher the ampage.
Okay.
The higher the gauge, meaning if you have a 30 gauge wire, it's a very, very thin wire. If you have the 1 gauge, it's as thick as my thumb almost.
Yep.
Okay, so, and here you can see it in the wire thing here. So we've got, so here we've got, On the side, it also will tell you it's 12 gauge, but generally on all your aviation type wire, you see the printing on there?
Oh, yeah,
Your part number. You see the 12 there?
Yeah.
That's your wire gauge.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's wire gauge up there. And then, I mean, this one here you can see is this is a 16 gauge or 18 gauge. Obviously quite thinner than that. And when you go up to like a 24 gauge, which is pretty thin.
Yeah.
And then you've got your single, your multi-course. Okay. So, single that up there. Let's get this. Okay, we're going to have an HL for this works here. Okay. All right, so let's just wind this up a little bit. Get this a little bit out of the way, otherwise it becomes a bit of a burner. All right. Okay. There's quite a bit of that now. All right. Good. Okay. So before you want to do any of the wiring, you actually want to number these things and get the little labels. So we need to print the labels. So I can show you how a label printing. Space. Okay. And then on this side, same thing. So we one. No. So from where this loom is going to be to where this connector goes through here is about that much. But we can check it. So if you want to come with me.
Yep.
When we put the wiring loom in, the wiring loom is going to sit, it's going to run here.
Yeah.
So that loom going to run from there to this connector to this hole. You see this hole? You see this hole here at the bottom?
Oh, yeah.
It's run from sort of up here to about here. About that long.
Yep.
So that's about how long that wire must be from the loom when it comes out. Just roughly. You don't want to make it too short, never. But that's really just so you can have a bit of a where should you stop. Okay, so if I do that, about from there.
Yep.
However, we're going to run it from about there. Okay. Long enough, just so that we have a little bit of extra there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the wires is going to be that long. Okay. And then the first ones we run is 1 to 7 because that's where that connector is going.
Yep.
So I'll just take all of her. E1 to E7. Okay. And then, so we'll deal with the engine side, that one, we'll deal with that one afterwards. Okay, so we'll first do the inside one. I can see that this cartridge has become a little bit dirty now and got to the end of its life. When you're doing with doors, James?
I'll do that soon.
Huh? Ian 55. That's all right. It's a little of a nervous tick. Okay. All right. So now we can see, okay, let's start with Ian 1. So if you look at that, 1 is going to the circuit breaker. to that fuse box circuit breaker on the left side. So let's say fuse box circuit left, fuse box left. Fuse box circuit breaker left. Okay, so it's going to go. This is EN1 here. 4. Okay, so this wire is going to go all the way I'm starting to think, why am I sometimes doing just that thing a little bit to us?
Where's that?
No,
There we go.
and I've always done it like this, and it's quite a long way. You know, you could probably also just do it like that, but doesn't really matter. So this goes to there. Your circuit breaker for the fuse box is the second one there. It's not marked, but this one will go there. So I'll just put this thing there.
Yeah.
And I'll just push it through where that hole is going to be. Okay.
Yeah, simple as that.
So that's one. So then now just grabbing that wire again, and now we'll do fuse box 2. And if you just work systematically, you can't really stuff it up.
Yep.
So we'll go 2. I think that's sort of a thing with wiring. Just your preparation must be good, and if you work systematically, you're not going to have too many issues. Oh, no. I didn't even check where it goes. Where does 2 go? 2 actually goes to, 2 goes to relay 1. See, I'm just,
Autopilot.
2 goes to relay 1. So the relays, we said it's going to be here. No, it's okay, long enough. Like. So fuse box 2 goes to relay 1. Relay to relay. I made enough of these things. Where's the rest of it? Come on. There you go. Goes to relay 1, which sits here. Alright. Okay. So now fuse box number 3 engine goes to the main circuit breaker, okay? Main right to the ECU circuit breaker on the right hand side. ECU, which one is it? ECU circuit, ECU circuit, right, there we go. Okay, so engine 3. Goes to the circuit, it goes to ECU circuit right, huh? So it will go all the way around again. So the ECU, that's the main circuit, it goes there. Okay? Okay, now we do engine 4. We'll go to 4 goes to the ECU backup switch bottom. ECU switch top, ECU switch bottom.
So the filming that I completed over this period of time was over about the course of around about 2 hours. It certainly gave me a really good perspective of how organised and methodical you needed to be in your planning of your harnesses, and the level of intricate detail that is attached to each harness.
Back of your center console, you're going to have a power supply there.
Yes.
For an iPad, typically. Yep. So that will not be one of the expensive ones, but that will be in the back, and then the fancy one will be on the front here.
And that'll be the switch to kill it?
No. So you want the switch to kill it. So what we'll do is, we literally on the back panel, we'll put an on-off switch.
Easy.
Yeah. So you can kill it if you want.
Yeah.
So GSB 15, USB, and then we will have up here we're gonna have VHF1, VHF2, we're gonna have intercoms. On the top line, then we will have GNX. We will have something else. GNX, I'm pretty sure the GNX also have that is like your GNX, it's a transponder. And GNX. And we may have extra here. So down there we will have ventilation, because those three things work off a power supply.
Mm-hmm.
We will have cabin lights there, and we will have lights here. That's all the other lights. By the way, I also have your lights already. Yeah. So, 2 wingtip strobes.
Yep.
A green and a red, and then so this your wingtip lights, and that is your tail light.
Yep.
And what they look like is that's a little strobe.
And we
I like to fit Whelans. In my view, it's probably the best quality light you can fit. They're really, really good.
Yeah, nice.
Really good quality, good seal, nice and bright.
Yeah.
That's all the things you want. And Whelan, being Whelan, good quality stuff.
Wigwag?
Wigwag, we are doing wigwag for you on the taxi light, yes.
Yeah.
So the taxi light will have wigwag function as well. So you can either have it as a taxi or as a wigwag light.
So you've got the, okay.
Yeah, so you can either have it on landing light and taxi light just on, or landing light, taxi light, wigwag, or just wigwag.
Okay.
So you can also have that. Alright, so try to control or a thing, you don't have to take out your whole wiring loom. So we run the wire there, down and under here, and then down there and all the way to the back. So where the wire split off, your control stick wiring will run in the front here, down there, through there, and up the stick. Your lights, your wires to your lights that goes out here on the side to the wing. So all wiring to the wings, that wing and this wing here, we run it just behind this main spar box.
Yep.
In there, there, and down there. So it connects here. So it doesn't interfere with any of the controls. All the controls, or even the aileron controls that go out there, And obviously it's all, especially on this edges, you can see this really sharp edge there. This is nice and soft. Oh well, nice and smooth. That's nice and smooth. It's not something there. However, if it sits here, so we just take a like a PVC tube, put it around the wiring so that it can't rub through in any manner or way through there. Same through here as well.
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, that's it. So once we've got all those wires into the sticks, then over here to the wings, then it goes down there under the seat and we'll route it back there. All right. First thing we're going to do is we're going to put it under there and okay, so pretty much plenty wiring. Okay, so this will then go from the one and the next and the next.
Yep.
So these are then held up there by little 4mm screws and 4mm little nuts on the inside to hold them nicely in place. Okay. So we're going to need some 4mm screws. Do we have?
We've got lots of them.
With little round heads, and we should have some 4mm little nuts as well.
Yes,
Would you mind grabbing me some, please, man?
what's that one?
Let's get the little thing all sort of lined up there. Ah, come on, take it. Okay, so line it up. Just put one little screw, and you see that this literally sort of screws into the plastic.
Yeah.
But not tight enough that you can just leave it. You see what I mean? And you'll feel it comes down the bottom there. You can feel it. So when you do, this is really shitty. Probably better if you can get, you're going to drop 10 of them. So put it on the bottom.
Yep.
Screw it in there. And because it's so bloody hard to get these in, I literally just do two.
Okay.
Across. That's enough. That holds it.
Yep.
So you put the little screw on there and just tighten it up to a point when socket from the bottom, tighten it up. So 2, 2, 2.
Yep.
That will do the trick. Once those are all three of them are in,
One goes into that
then
one.
I'll come and show you how we carry on with the rest there.
Yep. Sweet.
Okay.
Thanks, mate.
Good. All of those are going to go there, and these ones are going to go here. Now we've got one little issue because this connector is already put up and the rails has already been put up. So we'll just have to deepen the connector.
Yep.
Which is not a massive issue. We can deepen it, but the wires will sort of run there and there because this must go down there. Okay. So
It's just organising the chaos, right?
it's organizing chaos. This here, as you can see, is probably your pilot and co-pilot. PTTs.
Yep.
Now I can immediately see one issue here. Joseph, come and have a look here. Down there, we normally take it about down there. So we tie it to the side here, but you know that this, when this arm moves in and out, but it doesn't shave.
Yep.
So hello Alicia. So we sort of tie it like that and then there. Yeah. The floor. Yeah. However, so this will be one of the passenger mic and headsets. So that will run. Normally what I do is I run it up to here. So here will be the front of the floor and there. This will be enclosed, okay?
Yep.
So right after this, I need to route this wires, and I normally do it go through there. That's for the headset connectors that goes up there. So your passenger headset connectors will go something like that. And then we normally take it through there and there. And obviously now all of that is very nicely tight, you know, like you put little standoff so it doesn't shave.
Yep.
And here a little standoff. So that's what you're going to be busy with for a while.
Yep.
And then it goes through there. Like that. And then through the baggage floor up to there.
Yep.
Okay? So this one now follows a different route. This one will go through, normally goes through here and through there and through there. Right, and the rest to follow, all of us to follow. Just going to go through there. Otherwise, I'll have to. So it's a bit of a process to make all these things just through there.
I just want to assure people that as we're routing these wires, that this is not the way the wires will be installed upon final assembly. Obviously we'll have a lot more protection around the wires. We're simply just routing those wires at the moment to get them in position.
Roughly like that, so that we must keep. It's like feeding spaghetti through it.
With those hardened knees.
Oh yeah. And you can see now that the autopilot servo will sit here.
Yep.
So this will go onto the autopilot servo connectors.
Yep.
So that'll go through there, literally.
Yep.
Onto the autopilot servo. Something like that, roughly. And that will now go all the way through there. This is your cabin lights. We'll connect up with the cabin lights. We'll go through there. You see all of these?
Yep.
This is where all of that will connect to all of that.
Gotcha.
Okay. So that is sort of the basic routing for this, what we are busy with here. So, roughly runs like that. We're obviously very rough right now, but yeah. So after all of this has now been very nicely, tightly formed and shaped, it can't move, it can't shave, you know, against sharp edges.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's pretty well protected. So, you know, even though if you put all the nice skin around it,
Yep.
it's a little bit of extra protection and makes it definitely look nicer. Well, what one of the guys has done as well, they take that very sticky wrapping tape and they wrap the whole harness with it, which also gives it extra protection. And then you can remove all of these little, almost like your like wiring harness in your cars. You know, they've got that black, almost like a material wrap around it. Also makes it really looks a bit better, it's a bit more professional. But listen, as long as you make sure that it's not shaving anywhere, that's perfect.
Yep.
The main thing is every wire is as per factory drawing, and every wire is marked, so you can do fault tracing. The other thing as well, we use the Deutsch connectors, whereas the factory will rather use Canon connectors. It's really up to you which one you want to use.
Yep.
I do like these as well. They good quality connectors. Garmin feed, because this is where your dash going to be.
Yeah.
Behind the dash, on the back here, we fit certain pieces of Garmin equipment, and that'll be things like the transponder, whereas yours, normally the transponder will go here, but because your transponder is panel mount, which is the GNX375, it does not happen. You also have an intercom that's panel mount, which means it's not going to panel mount intercom. So the only things we're going to put on the back here is literally the ECU that goes on the back of this bulkhead here, your GAD 27, which is your flap control unit, that will go up here. Your backup battery will go on the side here. Your, what else do you have? The GA24 will go up there, and the GAD29 will go up there. The GSU, which is your heading reference unit, will sit on the back of the display.
Okay.
So there's very little actually that goes on here. 3 units. GAD29 and GAD27. These are the only things that goes on here. So, let's see if we've got those. Oh, there we go. I'll just pack it up here. So, GAD 29. So this unit is a little what we call an A-ring converter. So it's just like it's like CAN bus. It's just another protocol of communication, but high-speed communication. So all your traffic data that comes from your GNX and your GPS will go in here. A-ring data goes out as CAN bus. CAN bus is when the language that they all the computer language they use, or communication protocol that they use to display your traffic on your screen. So this one is your A-ring converter. That's a GAD 29. Then we have by the way, this is all your, that's all your stuff lying there.
Wow.
Couple of, that's quite a nice total of.
No, don't even say it.
There's a little bit
don't even say it.
There's a little bit of value there. I won't say how much, there's a little bit of value. Okay, so this here's the GAD 27. So your GAD 27 is really your flap, lights, and trim controller. Yep. So all the trim actions and the goes through this little unit. Trim and flap goes through here. Yep. So that little unit there is your trim and flap, and then the other one is the GA24. Now the GA24 is again, it's the little unit that will convert all the engine data to CAN bus data, so that again that your engine can communicate to your display, so you can see what's happening on the engine side of things. GA24. Okay. Yep. So those 3 units will need to go to the back of that bulkhead. And then we'll take it out again, because once we test the whole system, if you come and have a look at this one. So this is typically what you have behind the panel. So that's that's your GA24. So that will go onto specific connectors here, like that, and another one there. So what we normally do is, and we'll do it with yours as well. So that unit will now sit against the bulkhead like that. Yep. So once we have got the whole system like this, we will connect every part of it. We will connect the display, everything. Then we'll connect power supply on it, and we will run the whole thing. And once the whole thing is good, then we take it off and we go and we fit it on the aircraft.
Perfect. All good.
So that one you can see is made for the GAD 27. They'll go there. So we'll put riff nuts in there.
Yep.
So we know where that one's going to go. So let's see what we've got space for the GA24. And generally, if we don't have, if what there is does not fit our installation, you can drill new holes in this. It's not a problem. The only thing that I always say to the guys, just be careful, because if you've already mounted that,
Oh shit.
you want to push a drill through here, it may have a bit of a negative thing. So that here is good for the GA, and we can literally fit the GAD 29 pretty close to it. I would literally put. Sometimes we just, if we are very pressed for space, I just fit one on top of the other one.
Okay.
But the wires will be long enough in order to do that. So we will just fit one there, one there.
Yep.
So what I want you to do, this one I'll fit afterwards. But what I want you to do is, you see this 4 holes there.
Yep.
And that 4 holes there.
Yep.
You can fit riff nuts.
Yep.
Have you done some riff nuts before?
Well, I've done very little.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we'll get you to do some riff nuts.
So just before I sign off for today, I just wanted to give you a little bit of a snapshot into future episodes and some exciting news on my behalf as well. For those that have listened to my channel, you may have heard me talk a little bit about 3 blades in the past being a main influence to how I actually got into a Sling TSi, and I wanted to meet Michael. Not only did I meet Michael on my last trip, but I also got a chance to sit down with him and design our panel, which was an absolutely super experience. So this is just another example of the many, many reasons why I decided to go for a build assist. I got a fully customized panel here from a guy that knows and flies slings and built to the highest manufacturing standards. I was absolutely blown away when I got home this week and received an email from Errol to actually see my panel for the first time. It was absolutely amazing. I keep talking about the experience of a build assist and the moments that come along, and this again was another clear example of a great moment. Even though it was 1,100 kilometres away and on a week where I wasn't even there, I was still so excited. I was also so pleased to see all the work that we'd done in the wiring over this episode bring all of the equipment that we'd been talking about to life as well. Super, super, super excited to see all of this in the flesh when I get up there next time. Thanks heaps, Michael, for the work. Alrighty, so we're now 12 episodes into the Build Assist here in Australia, and over the course of it, there's been a lot of questions that have come through via the videos and also via email as well. I kind of haven't really been answering them as they've been coming up. So I thought it was time just to put a few on the back end of some of the episodes coming up, just so I can get some of those questions that have been coming up answered. So obviously if one person's thinking it, there's probably a lot of other people that are out there thinking it. The first one that came through was by Darren. Darren was interested in the build support, particularly as it relates to costs. So what the context of this one was, he's wondering whether or not if you took a couple of months out of your schedule and basically did the build assist all in one hit, whether or not that would impact the cost to the positive side. I had a bit of a chat to Errol about this. The reality is that the work's the work. So in the end, the guys that are helping you build the plane are ultimately going to be putting in the same amount of work regardless of whether or not you come in and do an intensive or not. So it wouldn't change the actual build assist cost. I think the other thing to note is that the Global Aviation Product guys and Marietta will be the point of call here on this one in terms of their costings. They're very transparent. So the costs are what the costs are. I haven't had any surprises in any of my invoicing. They've done exactly what they said they're going to do. So I think that in terms of, cost, you can be really confident that what they're quoting is basically what's going to get delivered. But the short answer to that is that, whether or not you go in and do an intensive or you do bits and pieces like I have, it's not going to change the cost at all. So the other thing that I would probably add to that, just as a bit of a along the same lines, I actually think that maybe doing an intensive, you may not get as much out of it as if you're doing the build over a 6-month period. And the reason is that each component of the build, I think they've got it quite staged, and they know exactly when builders need to come in. I think you need a little bit of soak time on things, and trying to cram it all in at once. So I think for me is probably just going to just maybe not give quite the experience that I've had. But that's just my perspective. So I hope that one answered your question there, Darren. All right, so the next one was from Joey, and it was specifically around the TSi and high wing choice. And maybe Joey hasn't watched all the episodes that I've had, so I have kind of answered that in one of the earlier episodes, but fair question. So the honest answer is I didn't really even consider the high wing. I'm a low wing man, and the minute that I sat in the TSi, I was hooked. It was fun to fly, it was fast, it was economical. I'm a reasonably big lad, so 6'2". I fit in that plane comfortably. I'm very comfortable in it. I don't feel like I'm cramped in it. And in terms of the passengers I'm going to carry, my wife's about 55 kilos and my little girl's only 7 years old. So we've got plenty of room to move around in the front and the back seat and store a lot of luggage. So look, I've obviously seen a lot of the high wings are getting a lot more momentum. But the other thing that worried me about high wings are that basically they're first generation. So, the TSI has gone through a few iterations now and been in the marketplace for a few things. I never liked being first in the market with items, so that played in my mind as well. But also seeing the high wings that have been coming in from being delivered to customers, they're really cool planes. So a little bit more space in them and a little bit more room to move. They're really well built. So they're going to be a rock solid option for anybody that decides to go that way. I just like the more sporty TSI. Gives me a little bit extra speed at cruise, and I just feel like that responsiveness in the TSI was super for me. I don't know if I can really answer it from a perspective of a deep understanding of I flew the high wing versus I've flown the TSI. I've just always wanted a TSI. So, Joey, I sort of hope that answers your question. It's just been always for me team low wing. The next question came from a user on the page. I don't actually have their name, so unfortunately, hopefully you can hear this response. But the question was around transition training into the TSI. So I've alluded to the fact that I'm a low wing man, and I've spent most of my time in Pipers, the last of which has been an Archer. So I will definitely have a bit of a plan now to start working through. It is July at the moment, and I expect to take delivery of the plane in September, so we're only a couple of months away. During my next visit, I plan on organising with Marietta a couple of sessions with one of the flight instructors to go up in a Sling too. I've done that previously, so when I was initially looking at the Sling, we went up and had the flight with Errol in his TSi. That was fantastic, but then I was kind of like, okay, that's great, but I want to fly a Sling. So I went to Caboolture, and there was a guy up there that took me up for a spin, and an instructor, and had a good fly around for about an hour up there at the airfield. It was awesome, gave me a really good feel of how a Sling flies, and my intention is that on my next visit, I'll go and spend probably about 2 hours worth of training on a Sling too, just again to just get that feeling, because being in a light sport aircraft, it is a little bit different, it's different feels, so I just want to get my head around that to start off with, and then basically, like with the flight testing hours that need to be done, 25 hours, I'm going to be paying the guys to be doing the full amount of the 25-hour testing. And the reason for that is I just, they can hear things that I don't, they can see things that I don't, and I want them to do all the test hours, so 25 hours for them. But they've also offered that during that stage I can be in and join in on those hours. So towards the latter end of it, I'll spend some time, and probably James, hopefully, will be flying, so I get to ask some questions along the way and just see how he flies the thing. And then after that, I'm probably going to spend a good 4 or 5 hours with an instructor up here, just flying on my own and just making sure I'm super comfortable before I take the keys and launch off. So this is stuff that I'm choosing to do as a customer and a responsible husband and father. So that's what I'm going to be doing with the transition. So yeah, kind of got a few more questions there that we'll cover, and obviously got a couple more days to show you in terms of the filming of my last stint up there at Heckfield. So I'll pop some more answers into those questions in the tail end of the week, and hopefully cover anything else. If there's anything else that pops up with people that they want to know or understand about the build or the build assist here in Australia, just pop something down in the comments. I'll jot it down and I'll get you an answer. So yeah. Anyway, thanks guys. Appreciate you guys watching. Really hope you got something out of the content there with Errol. It's just priceless spending time with that guy. He knows so much about airframes. Avionics is his jam. And we're very lucky to have him here in Australia, building our planes and having that technical expertise behind us. So thanks heaps, guys.